Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode number 27. We have super exciting stuff for you guys. We have been in our new construction series over the last several weeks, and today we are actually going to be seeing firsthand through pictures and videos Heather's actual new build story. So we've heard a lot about it throughout the last few episodes. But today we're going to actually get to see some of the process, and it's going to be super exciting. So Heather, tell us what you got.
Awesome. Yeah, I started, or I talked about this last week, but this is the first time I've done like a true reminiscing of the start to finish of the build since we finished the build. So it was really fun getting ready for this video. And I'm really excited to share with you guys just some of the process we went through. I'll get into a little bit of like fun stories and stuff, but for the consideration of time, I'll get more into the serious stories and like the hiccups and stuff like that next week. So, but I'm really excited to share everything. So, yay. So let me remove this and put my screen up so you can see what is going on. So this was how we bought the land. It was completely raw land. Literally nothing had been done to it. I've talked about in the past how the land was actually owned and had a home designed on it by somebody. So essentially what happened is COVID hit. And they just weren't able to afford the build anymore, which is why they sold the house. So while it sucks for them, it was a really hard time. It was really cool for us to be able to go through the process. So we have, again, just like empty trees. This is what is now our driveway, is this photo right here. I wish it was showing up bigger. I'm noticing it's really flipping small for you guys. But yeah, so this is just how it looked beforehand. It was really cool. This is again the driveway, the view from the lake, just whatever from the woods, and then yeah, that's about all there is to that part. So it was literally raw land. Like there's nothing done to it, no hookups, no nothing.
That second photo literally looks like a piece of artwork, like a Thomas Kinkade or like something they would make a puzzle. Like, is so pretty.
Yeah. It was really cool. That night was such cool coloring. Like this is a little bit of phone's auto editing, like all phones do. But aside from that, like it literally looked like that. And that is from what is now, I think, our bedroom, maybe our bathroom. So we actually gave this to people who were helping us with renderings for our bathrooms and was like, here, you can use this in your renderings. And it was really cool. So we got to see like Very that cool. As our view. Yeah.
Very cool.
But yeah, so then the very first step is, hey, it's you got to tear down the trees so that you can build a house. So this was just kind of that process and what that looked like. It took several days because this was almost an acre of land that just had, and on a very steep slope, by the way. There will be some photos in the future that you'll see how steep this is, but everything that like where the trees could fell and not hurt anything, they just literally cut it down from the base and toppled them. Like you'll see in both of these videos that are kind of playing right now. In fact, this one right here is going timber. Tiny little tree. Up here, you'll see a much bigger one fall in just a second here. There you go.
Wow.
So everything that could just fall, they felled it. This one right here was actually like practically where I'm sitting right now, like literally in my office. This is where this tree was. And it is way too close to the neighbor's house. So they actually had to go up and chop down pieces at a time in order to, protect their house. It's probably a good thing. And then they just load all the wood up by the road. And then they later have a truck come through and actually like haul it and everything like that. And then they had a wood chipper for branches and stuff like that. So yeah, that was the felling process, the tree process. It's really heart-wrenching to see some of these trees. Like I counted the rings on some of these trees, and some of them were literally like 80 years old, 90 years old. And so, which around us really isn't old growth, but it's older than us, right? So it was really hard to see some of these trees fall, but at the same time, it made way for some pretty cool stuff.
Heather, I know our economies are very different, but like, do you have like a really wild stab ballpark, like how much just to prep the land? Like, how much was
cost?
it to get all that removed? Yeah, cost wise.
Oh man, let's see if I can remember.
A wild number, just roughly.
I want to say to get all the trees down and removed was something like 30,000.
Okay.
Ish. I want to say, I could be wildly off, but I think it was about 30. What's really interesting, just a fun fact, is depending on the need for wood and the need for trees and the types of trees you have will actually differ the cost. Because if we were just felling trees, that would be one cost. But the fact that they got to load them up on the back of a truck and haul them away and sell them and prep that wood for uses elsewhere, there's a certain cost for that wood. So if we were to literally just cut them down and haul them, that would have been wildly more expensive. But there was a little bit of money that they're able to recoup from actually selling the wood. The interesting thing about our property is anytime there's a curve in the wood, or if it's under 5 inches or anything like that, like it makes it so it's unusable. So there's practically no cost for it. So yeah, interesting stuff. So once they took down the trees, they started grading the land. They took out all of the shrubbery, all that. So this, where I'm standing for this photo right here, is actually and up here. So there's actually a log that is fallen between one side of our property over to our neighbor's house. In fact, you can see it if I show you right here. Wow. So let's see if I can point out this log right here. For any of the photos where I am like taking a picture of the back of the house, such as this one or this one, that's the log I'm actually standing on. Yeah. So they graded the land, or they cleared it, and then it was a matter of like digging into it so that we can we did our foundation using cement footings, and then built the rest of the foundation on top of that. So I mentioned in the past, there's tons of different foundations depending on where you are, the type of land you have, the type of build you have, the type of soil you have will greatly differ what kind of foundation you use. So for us, we use foundation footings and then built the foundation on top of it. So that's what they're doing right here, is they're kind of creating like little step process to be able to dig back little bits at a time. And then this, I wish I knew how to get rid of this little player icon here that's blocking it. But this, if you can see this little dot right here, that's my husband. Like, and he's 6'2". And so it shows you just how big the space is, and it gives you a decent idea of how steep the slope is that we're built on as well. So we literally had to grade backwards and then basically have a sheer wall that the foundation wall is going to go up to, which we'll talk about in a second. So yeah, it's crazy just how much dirt was hauled, by the way. Like, dirt work alone was hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like, it made the trees look like nothing. And then here we have the foundation footing. So this is actually the foundation footings being laid out, like all the rebar and stuff like that, that the cement was going to be poured into. And then here they are actually pouring it for the footings. And then we had a shit ton of rain. And so that area in between the footings suddenly became a rusty swimming pool thanks to all the rebar. So we actually ended up having to bring in a pump and the pump was working nonstop for days so that we could actually still work on the house. But how they do it is, so the road is over here in this picture. And of course, the foundation is right here, or the footings are right here. So they had the car or the truck with the cement on the road, and then they connected it to a device that strictly tunnels the cement into a long tube that goes on this long arm and that goes all the way down. And there's somebody at the bottom that's actually moving it around. So it's a whole process when you're trying to, especially pour cement, where it's not easy for a truck to reach, because this right here is probably about a 30-foot drop, I want to say, from where this is and where the road is to the bottom here. Yeah. And then at that point, because it was so steep, we had to cover it all with tarping. And here's a good idea too of how much rain we had this year. There were like 3 years in a row, something like that, where we had like crazy atmospheric rivers where it just jumped rain. So we had a swimming pool, which honestly, if we didn't have those years, we would have been in for a world of hurt later, because since we noticed all of that water, we actually overkilled on our drainage on our property, because we only were required to have so much per our permitting. And then we went, there's a lot of water that comes through this property, both underground and above ground. So we, I think, overkilled the drainage on the property, which we'll get into a little bit more, I think, next slide as well. But this video right here gives you a little idea of just how much water was just running down this hill. We had a fun little waterfall. Next up is the foundational wall was actually getting set up. So this is the forms that they put up for the wall. So they put up one form. So basically how it works is you have to dig the hill back further than the foundation wall is going to go. And then you put up all the forms, and then you pour in the cement, and then they usually actually can tear them down, the forms of it, the same day, and then it just takes another day or so to actually fully harden and dry. And there's, depending on the type of weather, the type of area you're in, the type of, just again, all the things will actually depend on, or will determine the chemical makeup of those cement. So because we're having a lot of water, a lot of rain, we needed something that was able to internally heat itself so that it could dry quicker. So that was kind of a chemical compound that we ended up using. So just fun, interesting things. But yeah, so this right here is now all underground. This whole wall right here. So this right here is actually my wait, now I'm trying to think. Yeah, so this is actually part of our wine room on this wall. And then our closet is like right here, and then our bedroom is actually right here. So it's kind of cool that at this point, like, I can finally see where everything is, right? And the reason we made all of this a wine room is because, for those who don't know, when you have a room that is inside of a hill and it's fully foundational wall, it stays an incredibly consistent temperature, which happens to be the perfect temperature to store wine. So we're like, heck yeah, we're going to turn this entire area into a massive little wine cellar, which we have not built yet. We want to, but that's the plan because of this. Yeah, so that's kind of how the foundation started. Is you got all the footings, then you have the foundation wall, and we have a stepped foundation wall because, again, the slope, to protect the hill and, you know, be able to build the house. So it ended up actually being a really complicated piece of engineering. Watching how they worked, watching how they processed. They were looking at the plans, looking at the site and going, you know, I think we need to like raise this one another foot because of how the slopage is and how you're going to need to backfill the dirt and all that. Like, it was a whole thing. But pretty cool. Like, this was the first, like, oh my God, like, we have an idea of what our footprint's going to look like. This is really cool.
Yeah.
And then, hey, look, vapor barrier. Talked about this.
Infamous vapor barrier.
So a lot of foundational walls that have some water, that, you know, naturally soil is pretty moist. And so there's like a tarry substance that is a waterproofer. However, this is one of the ways that we massively overkilled in an attempt to, like, we saw all that water that was running through our property. So we went, okay, cool. Let's prevent this from getting into the house. So we added another layer on top of the waterproof tarring, and this is the vapor barrier. So basically the water will hit this, run down. If anything does get inside, like in between the tar and what you see on the outside here, there's basically little holes or little tubes that allow air to come through, and it'll actually be able to dry out that water that does get in there. So that's basically the process of that in very simplified terms. And then we ended up backfilling. So you got all the dirt coming back in. So that 30-foot cliff that you saw right here is now here probably about 10 feet-ish.
Mm-hmm.
But what I thought was particularly cool is this right here is where our plumber was looking at our foundation and going and looking at our plans and went, where do I need to put the pipes? So he actually went through with spray paint and like sprayed all the areas where all the pipes needed to run. And then this down here is what it looks like after he actually laid it all down. And this is before you put any kind of full foundation down, because you need to, you know, get the tubing into the house, especially since we have our laundry and our bathroom and our actual water hookup and other water sources in the basement. So basically all of these end up going to our septic system, which all need to run underground. So all of these are the outlet system. So this is where your when you flush your toilet, where it goes. So this one right here is actually for our sinks for our bathroom. This is for our shower. This is for our toilet. I think, oh, this is for another bathroom, shower, and toilet. This is for laundry. And then I don't even remember what the rest of these for. I think this is what eventually feeds the rest of the house. So yeah, really interesting stuff. Just kind of seeing like what it looked like underground.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have just more foundational stuff going in. So this was the foundation, or this was the footing for our garage. This was what ends up being the pylons that hold up the back of the house, or the deck of the house more so. This is where they had rebar down and it snowed. Surprise, surprise. And then, yeah, they ended up pouring the cement, and this is all you can see out of all that piping that you ended up seeing before. And then I forgot to remove these little guys, which is fun, when I was filling a Canva. Let's see. Oh, that's the wrong one. Hold up. Why is it pulling up? There we go. So again, this is the foundation and the view. This right here, so one of the other ways that we had to overkill was, so per our permit, all of our downspouts, instead of just going down into the ground, all of the downspouts from our roof actually go into piping, which ends up going into the ground and is released into the ground. So that basically all of our downspouts connect to this pipe right here and is buried underground. And it's covered in rock and rubble so that other water and stuff can filter through, and it can just dissipate the water that comes through. All of the holes in this pipe are face down so that it literally just kind of drips out and feeds the plants and vegetation and stuff around it. And today there's, I don't think you'll be able to see it much on the camera, but today it's completely covered in vegetation. Like, you can't even tell that there's a bunch of stone and stuff here, which is pretty cool. This is our septic system that went in. I was fortunately helping some clients during the day that this was installed, so I had no photos of the actual tanks. But anybody that knows septic systems, usually you only have like a couple of tanks. It's a fairly simple looking system. But because we're on a lake, we actually have so many more requirements for how I think it's called black matter and gray matter and stuff like that actually end up having to move from tank to tank, because we need to protect the water. We need to protect the lake. We are basically the middleman between the water reservoir and a river. So we have to keep our lake clean. And if there's any issues with septic, it's going to affect the lake, which is fines that we do not want. So this was the requirement. It's a really hefty system. We actually have 4 tanks, I want to say, under here for between like, your hards, your solids, and then your grays, like your peas and everything like that. And then your sink water and blah, blah, blah. And then it goes into another tank, and then our leach field that it connects to, where it like drips out all of the clean water, the leftover clean water. We have a pump that actually pumps it uphill to do that. So there's a whole process. But another thing that we had to do for overkill, so this right here is actually one of the downspout drains. And they're backfilling this with rock so that any water that gets down in there can still like drain through. It's not going to get stuck. It's not going to overfill the system and then cause issues. Another thing we did, which I think I have photos of later, but I don't remember, is we actually ended up putting extra footing drains, and we have extra drains around the front of the house, so that there's literally several layers of drains around our house, so that if there's a lot of underground water, if there's a lot of overground water, it has a place to go, and it's not going to affect the house. It's not going to affect the hill. It is all designed to dissipate in different areas. So fun.
Yeah.
Fun
and
stuff.
we're like hundreds of thousands of dollars in, and like there's not even a piece of wood. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But here's the wood. Here's where it starts. So what I thought was really interesting is they put down for all the main walls on the bottom floor, they actually put down pieces of wood and nail it in with concrete nail guns. And then what they do is when they put the framing on top of it, they're just nailing that directly into this wood. So I thought that was really interesting. I didn't know how that worked. But here are just different parts of the framing process. So this right here is the little bathroom. What we're in right here is the master bath / the master bedroom. Yeah, you see the framing going up. So all of our windows downstairs are sliding glass doors. So these are the basic frame that more serious and crazy frame is going to be built around. And then our dog Light hanging out on the wood like it's a little jungle gym. What's also interesting is they build all of the frames on the ground, and then you have a few guys that are hoisting it up, and then another guy that's going down and like actually nailing everything down. And a lot of times what you'll see too is if it still needs an extra support before like another floor goes in, or it needs extra support before another wall goes in, then you usually have it like pried up with other pieces of wood, creating that leverage for it. So framing was exciting. First floor got done, and we had second floor. And this is actually a couple of interesting pieces. So first off, we did not use typical floor. So this is what you see up here. These are floor joists. So basically that's what, the ceiling is made of on the lower floors, and then the floor is made of on the upper floors. But with most homes, what they do is they have just basically plywood that acts as the system that your floor sits on. But with us, we have heated flooring throughout our entire house. That is our heat source. And so what we used is a company called Warmboard, which is a hydro system, and it pumps hot water to heat the floors. So this flooring, and the reason it looks funny, I wish I could zoom in a little bit, but I don't think I can. There's just like grooves that are going like this the entire way. and that's what the pipes are going to be laid in to heat it up. And the underlayment is still OSB, but the top of it is actually like an aluminum, so it takes that heat and is able to dissipate it a little better.
Very cool.
Yeah. And then the other thing to note here, which I think it's in the next one too, but I'm not sure. So a lot of times as well, you'll see just regular OSB, which is like, for those that don't know, they basically take wood chips and then they glue it together and compress it so that it creates just like a, OSB. But the problem with it is that it can be really susceptible to water. Like if water gets into any crack, any imperfection, it's going to expand that wood and cause issues. So what we wanted to do, because we live in a really wet environment, is we decided to do, oh my God, I'm forgetting the name of it all the
Plywood?
Not plywood. It's a zip system. So what it is it basically has more waterproofing features to it. So that if anything gets under siding or anything like that, then it's blocked by this siding instead of being able to soak into it and then cause problems. Yeah. And then we also, yeah.
I just want to say, I think you have some time restraints today, and we might need to do a part 2. Do you think?
I'm thinking so. Yeah, because we're about halfway done. So part 2 might end up making more sense. I thought I was gonna get through this so quick, but oh my God, it's not. Thanks for keeping an eye out for me.
Yeah, but I really like this one, and I think it would be really cool because then we'll kind of transition next. Well, we'll have to look at the calendar, but hopefully next week into kind of going from more like the framing to like actually it's starting to like really come together. So
yep, I agree.
Yeah,
let's do it that way. Yay.
But let's look at that last one real quick that you had up. So this is kind of where we go from like the not fun part. Well, I don't want to say not fun, but like, you know,
just different. Yeah.
It's in concrete. So like we're actually starting to like see the real stuff that you're going to see. So that is super cool. So that'll be so exciting. So yeah, we'll pick up, but I definitely don't want to cut the time short on this. Yeah. So I think that'll be super exciting to kind of transition next time into kind of the fun stuff. So
yay. Very excited. Look forward to it.
All right, guys. Well, we will definitely post an update, and then we will see you guys again next week, same time, same